Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we are going to decode the financial matrix. We're going to take you from being just a passive participant to a literal master of your own wealth. We're looking at the absolute foundational rules of money, taking what usually feels like this totally rigged system and translating it into a game you can actually win.
So here's our roadmap for today. We're kicking things off with what money actually is, the basic social construct, and we'll move all the way through banks, inflation, the true engines of wealth, and wrap up with advanced wealth-building techniques. Let's get right into it.
What is money really? The board we play on. Before we can win, we absolutely have to look at the board we're playing on and the immediate tolls required just to participate in society.
Now, when you really think about it, currency is basically just a shared belief. The only actual difference between a dollar bill and a random stick you'd find in the woods is our societal trust. We've all universally agreed that the dollar bill has worth and the stick doesn't. Money only functions because the government prints it, central banks regulate it, and everyday people trust it enough to trade it for goods and services. It's wild, right?
But participating in this shared belief system definitely comes with a cost. Imagine working your tail off flipping burgers for a whole month. You get a notification that you earned $2,000, but then you look and a much smaller number, $1,456, actually hits your bank account. Where on earth did the rest of it go?
Well, that missing chunk goes straight to taxes. It's the unavoidable cost of civilization that funds our roads, our schools, and our safety. You've got income tax on what you make, sales tax on what you spend, and capital gains tax on what your investments make. Then there's Social Security, which is basically the government forcing you to save for retirement, and Medicare, which helps support health insurance for older folks. But here is the truly crazy part. When it comes time to file your taxes, the government knows exactly what you owe, but they make you guess. Guess right? You're fine. Guess wrong? You're in a whole lot of trouble.
All right, moving on to Section 2, Banks and Credit Scores, the players and obstacles. Let's take a look at the middlemen who actually control the flow of this game, the banks and lenders. So banks aren't exactly guarding your cash in some giant dragon's vault. What they do is called fractional reserve banking. Say you deposit $1,000. The bank only keeps a tiny fraction of that on hand, say $100. Then they instantly turn into matchmakers, loaning out that other $900 to someone who, really wants to buy a jet ski. They make their profit by lending your cash out at a higher interest rate than they pay you. The whole system relies entirely on the fact that we aren't all going to ask to withdraw our money at the exact same time. Because lending is the name of the game here, lenders need to know if they can trust you. Enter your credit score. It's this somewhat shadowy 3-digit algorithm based on a few key factors. Are you paying on time? How much of your available credit are you actually using? How old are your accounts? And what's your mix of loans? It's not at all about how wealthy you are. It's strictly about how trustworthy you look to a lender. Honestly, treat this score like a pet dog. If you take care of it, you're golden. Neglect it, and it will completely ruin your financial life with terrible interest rates. That brings us to Section 3, Inflation and Recessions Explained, the Invisible Forces. We really need to explore these invisible economic forces that are constantly, quietly pushing against your financial progress. Have you ever opened a bag of chips and realized it somehow costs 30% more than it did last year? Yep, that's inflation. The absolutely crucial point here is that inflation happens when there's just too much cash chasing too few goods, slowly eroding the purchasing power of your money over time. Just look at this TV example. If 2,000 people have cash and want a $500 TV, but the store only has 1,000 TVs in stock, well, the store just raises the price to $800. A little bit of inflation is totally normal, but when it spikes, your savings essentially start dying.
And zooming out, we have the broader economic cycle. When the economy shrinks for at least 6 months straight, we hit a recession. Think of the economy like a massive party. During the boom phase, the drinks are flowing, everyone's dancing. At the peak, maybe the lights start to flicker a bit. Then, reality hits with the bust phase. Jobs vanish, companies cut costs, and the DJ is just playing sad lo-fi beats. But listen, a recession is really just a painful reset phase of the economic cycle. Eventually, the government lowers rates, spending comes back, and the growth resumes. It always does.
Let's dive right into Section 4, the engines of wealth, the cheat codes. Now that we know the obstacles in our way, let's shift from playing defense to playing offense and uncover the real cheat codes to wealth.
If you want to win, you absolutely have to understand interest. Interest is simply money's way of charging rent to exist in someone else's hands, right? When you borrow money, it's a penalty. But when you lend it, it becomes a reward. And there are two types. Simple interest is just a flat fee. Thanks for playing. But compound interest, oh, that is where the magic happens. Compound interest means every single dollar you invest creates little clones of itself, and then those clones, they start charging rent too. It multiplies your money like an absolute financial cheat code.
Let's actually look at how this builds depending on which side of the coin you're on. See, compound interest is a slow burn. It can turn small debt mistakes into raging fires, but it also turns small investments into massive wins. If you're paying 20% interest on a credit card and you miss a payment, that $12 burrito quickly snowballs into a $50 regret. But if you are investing and getting a 7% annual return in the market, your money is duplicating. $100 becomes $200, then $400, and on and on. So to combat inflation and actually use compound interest to your advantage, you've got to put your money to work. You can't just keep trading your time for a paycheck forever. You can buy stocks, which are just tiny ownership slices of companies. You can buy bonds, which is literally loaning your money to governments for interest. You can buy funds, which collect a huge variety of stocks and bonds for you. Or you can invest in real estate, buying property that other people actually pay to live in. Listen, the real danger isn't the stock market temporarily going down. The real danger is never, ever investing at all.
Which brings us to our final section, mastering value in time, winning the game. Let's look at the overarching ultimate strategies for long-term victory.
So, where does wealth actually come from in the first place? Think about a perfectly normal rock versus a shiny yellow rock, like gold. Gold isn't inherently worth more to the universe. It's just worth more to humans because we place a higher value on it. Value is entirely perceived. Whether it's Steve Jobs inventing the iPhone or a Gucci handbag selling for an insane markup compared to a standard bag, wealth comes from creating something people perceive as highly valuable. Put simply, if you provide immense value to the world, you are going to earn immense money.
But creating that value and letting it grow takes time, which brings us to a massively important number, 30. The top earners out there know that wealth is almost never built in days. It takes decades. Most wealthy people didn't just win the lottery. They just consistently invested their money and stepped back to give compound growth 30 years to do its thing.
Time is literally the most valuable asset in the world. It is the ultimate multiplier. A little money invested consistently, given enough time, becomes a lot. It is exactly what allows ordinary people working standard jobs with standard paychecks to retire with seven-figure portfolios. You don't have to somehow outsmart or beat the system. You literally just have to use the system. Your money multiplies slowly at first and then much, much faster as the years go on. So, as we wrap up this explainer today, I really want you to ask yourself one question. Who is collecting the rent on your money right now? Is interest your worst enemy, quietly keeping you stuck in debt? Or is it your absolute best unpaid employee, working for you around the clock while you sleep? The rules of the matrix are right in front of you now. The choice is entirely yours. Decide how you're going to play the game from here on out.